Okay, so what are the difference between parallel system and distributed operating system? The first difference is the memory architecture of these two systems. Parallel system always follows tightly coupled shared memory. So in previous class we have discussed about what is the concept of tightly coupled shared memory. In tightly coupled shared memory, n number of process can share a single memory. This is the concept of tightly coupled architecture or tightly coupled shared memory. But in distributed operating system, it always follows loosely coupled system or loosely coupled architecture. The main concept and loosely coupled is here each and every system has its own processor, has its own local memory. So that is the first difference between parallel system and distributed system. Parallel system always follow tightly coupled shared memory, but in distributed operating system it always follow loosely coupled shared memory. Now the second difference is the control. Who can control our system? Either it is parallel or whether it is distributed. See why we need such type of control. Say one process which is executing in my device and I am located in Durgapur area network, and another process which is executing in Kolkata area network. So that is the concept of distributed operating system. In distributed operating system, two processes are situated completely different area, but they can communicate. So when they want to communicate with each other, then there should be one global clock. Again, I am repeating my term. It is called the global clock. Who can synchronize this technique? Means, say n number of process are competing for a single resources. Then who can occupy these resources? So there should be one global clock who can control such things. So the second difference is there is concept of global clock in distributed operating system. But you know that there is no concept of global clock in system because everything is controlled by scheduler in parallel system or normal operating system. And the third difference is its processor speed. The processing speed of parallel system is order of TBPS terabyte, and here the processor speed is GBPS. And the last difference is in parallel system it's mainly focused on performance and scientific computing, but in distributed operating system our main focus on how can we improve the scalability of the system, reliability of the system, and our focusing on how can we share resources. So that is the difference between parallel system and distributed operating system. Now there is another topic which is called disadvantages of distributed operating system. So in mutual exclusion chapter we shall discuss about disadvantages of distributed operating system. So I am intentionally skip this topic now. Now I am discussing about the operating system architecture. So the first thing in operating system and the main important thing in operating system is called the kernel. You know, the kernel is the central controller of every type of operating system because kernel can manage scheduler, kernel can manage system calls, and it also manage the inter-process communication. So the vital task of operating system always managed by kernel. So here you can see the main task of kernel is the program that allows the communication between software and hardware. And the second point is when we start our computer, when we press on button of computer, then first thing, that is everything is loaded into the kernel. Then our computer will start. So the kernel is the central controller of every operating system. So here mainly the kernel are categorized in two categories. First one is monolithic and the second one is microlithic kernel. What is the concept of monolithic kernel? Here in monolithic kernel, everything means inter-process communication, file system, scheduler, device driver, vertical memory, everything are associated with kernel. So here user kernel always share the same address space. So here everything is clubbed together or merged together and situated in kernel. So that is the concept of monolithic kernel. So here see the diagram of monolithic kernel. Here is the application software and here it is the kernel structure, monolithic kernel structure. So system call, inter-process communication, file system, scheduler, everything are clubbed together and situated in kernel. And this kernel is acts as an interface between application and hardware. So what are the function of this monolithic kernel? It provides CPU scheduling, memory management, file management, system calls, everything. Every important task is performed by kernel. Where we use this type of kernel in Linux operating system and all versions of Windows support. All versions of Windows support this monolithic kernel. Now, the concept of microlithic kernel. The concept of microlithic kernel is here the kernel is not the central controller. Means the main task is performed by user. Main task means scheduling, managing the threads, paging system, system calls. This main task is performed by user in microlithic kernel. Very few tasks or very unimportant tasks is performed by kernel. So here see that the main task which is performed by kernel is it is only support for primitives like process, memory objects, etc. etc. So in microlithic kernel all powers goes to the user and here it's the hardware. So what are the function of this microlithic kernel? The function is it has excellent separation policy. Means everything is separated in microlithic kernel very fantastically. but the disadvantage is it has very poor performance because everything is done by user in microlithic kernel, so its performance is very poor and the speed of user is also very slow. So here rest of the OS is runs on user space. Example of this microlithic kernel is Mac OS and Windows NT version. These two types operating system uses this microlithic kernel. Now, now we will discuss about layered system of distributed operating system. So there are 6 layer 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layer in distributed operating system. First layer is process allocation and multiprogramming. This is the first layer of distributed operating system. Second layer is called memory and RAM management. Third layer is operator process communication. Fourth layer is input and output management. Fifth layer is user program, and the last one is the operator. So this is the layer architecture of distributed operating system. Now we will discuss about the client server model of distributed operating system. So why we need this type of model? Because in distributed operating system all systems are distributed physically. They are physically separated. So when two process wants to communicate with each other, then they must follow this client server model. When two or n number of process wants to communicate with each other. So this is the first architectural model of distributed operating system, which is called client server model, and it is very much popular. So what is the concept of this model? See, here it is the client which is located another network, say network number 1, and it has its own local memory, own local processor and own local kernel, and it is the server which is located another network, and it has also its own local memory, processor and kernel. Now after some time these two process wants to communicate with each other, means clients wants to occupy some resources which is situated at server area. Then what rule client and server model should follow? The rule is, at first client have to send one request message to server. He say, now I want to access these resources from you. Then server reads the message and it calculates that whether these resources is free or not. If these resources is free, then it can send these resources to the client. If it is occupied by another process, then it sends a reply message. He say, you have to wait some time. After releasing these resources, you can occupy it. So this is the main concept of client server model. So here you can see the graphical representation of client server model. Here it is client and here it is server. Someone is waiting. So this is the client. At first, this client sends one request message to the server. The server receives this request message and read the message, then which type of resource this client wants to occupy. If it is free, it sends one reply message. He say you have to wait some time. After some time you can occupy this message. So this is the waiting time. Okay. So this is the ideal time, means this is the waiting time of client. After some time, when the resource is free, then the server sends these resources to the client. So that is the main concept of client server model. See another diagram. It is called the master slave architecture. The server here is called the master and the client is called the slave. At first, client means slave sends one request message or one invocation to the server. Then server reads the invocation. If its resource is free, then it sends the result to the client. So it is called the master slave architecture. Here server is the master and client is the slave. Okay. Now the third topic is inter-process communication. So why we need this type of communication? Because you know that in distributed operating system, 2 or n number of processes are situated completely in different area. So when they want to communicate with each other, then they should follow some protocol or some rule. That is why we need this inter-process communication. So see, in mechanism allows the process to communicate with each other and synchronize their activities. Why we need synchronization? Because when 2 or n number of processes are competing for a single resources, then the system maybe goes to deadlock situation. So for avoiding this type of deadlock situation, we have to synchronize the process. Synchronize means we have to give some timestamp to each and every process. We say after some time you can occupy the resources. So this type of synchronization is done by inter-process communication system. So see why we use this inter-process communication. First point is information sharing. 2 or n number of processes can share resources with each other, can share very confidential information between each other. By this way, the computational speed up will be very high. And the last thing is for synchronization purpose. 2 or more process competing for a single resources, then we have to synchronize them. So this synchronization is also done by inter-process communication mechanism. Okay, so that is the 4 requirement of inter-process communication or 4 properties. Now, what are the mechanism of this inter-process communication technique. See, two or n number of process can communicate with each other by two techniques. First technique is called shared memory and second technique is called message passing. Okay, so by these two techniques, two or n number of process can communicate with each other. So we will discuss about these two technique one by one. So the first technique is called shared memory architecture. First, see the diagram. So this is the diagram for tightly coupled device where two or n number of process shared a single memory, and this diagram is for loosely coupled device where each and every process has its own memory, own local memory. So first of all, see this diagram, means for tightly coupled device diagram. Here you can see there are two processes. This is process A and this is process B, and here it is the central control which is called kernel, and these two process is associated with a single memory which is called the shared memory. Now what happens if process A wants some resources, then what process A do? At first process A sends the request message to a kernel. He say that I want to occupy these resources. Then what shared memory do? Shared memory keeps record of request which is comes from process A. Then what process B do? Process B reads the messages which is recorded by shared memory. Then process B, reading the message, process B calculate that whether this resources is free or not. If this resources is occupied by another process, then it sends one reply message to process A. He say you have to wait some amount of time. After some time you can occupy these resources. So the main function of shared memory is, in tightly coupled device, shared memory keeps record of all transaction, means which request is comes from process A, which reply message is delivered by process B. It keeps record every transaction. So this is the main architecture of shared memory in tightly coupled device, where shared memory keeps record of every transaction which is performed by two or n number of processes. But here you can see the shared memory architecture of loosely coupled device. Here process A has its own local memory and process B has its own local memory, and here the kernel also has its own local memory. Then how can they communicate with each other? Here at first process A send one request message to the kernel because the kernel is the central controller. So at first process A sends one request message to kernel. He say yes, now I want to access some resources which is located to another network. Then the memory of kernel keeps record of this request and it sends this record to process B. Now B read the message and it decide that whether this resource is available in my area or not. If this resource is not available or if this resource is occupied by another process, then it says one reply message कि you have to wait some time. After some time, you can access my request. So here, the main concept is each and every process and kernel also has its own local, but here only kernel memory keeps the record of every transaction. So that is the concept of shared memory architecture. So here you can see the 2 point. Cooperate existing between two processes. Process A generate information about resources and keeps record on shared memory. Then the next technique or second technique of inter-process communication is message passing. So the concept behind the message passing technique is nothing but it follow two steps. First step is at first it establish a communication link between two or n number of process who wants to communicate with each other. So at first it establish a communication link. After establishing a communication link, it exchange message between them. The message type is look like this. First it sends a message. The message structure is at first this it contains a message which is in textual format or ciphertext format. Then it contains the destination address where this process wants to send this message. So it is the destination address. And the receiver side contains this type of architectural message. Means at first it contains the host address. Host address means where this message comes from. And the second part of this message contains the actual text message which is comes from sender side. So this is the two part of message passing technique. First it establish a communication link, then sender and receiver sends message between them. The sender part contains two things. At first it write its message, then it associate the destination address, and the receiver side contains two things. At first one host address is associated with message and the second part contains textual message which is comes from sender side. So here you can see the architectural model. So this is the sending process and this is the receiving process. So sending process pass the messages. This is the message passing module. Message passing module contains these things. At first it contains message, then one destination address is associated with it. Then it passes the message and this is the receiver side. Receiver side also contains the same thing. At first it contains host address and then one actual text message is associated with host address. So this is the architectural model of message passing. Here you can see the method, IPC method. By using this method, one process can communicate with each other. What are the method? At first is file, then signal. So what is the use of file? It is used to store the resource information. Signal, it is only used in Unix operating system. What is the main function of socket? It nothing but provides the point to point or two-way communication by using socket. The message passing queue means the ready queue. The concept of ready queue or message passing queue is same. It provides the asynchronous and communication protocol. And the last is pipe. Pipe means one communication link. Here you can see that here it is parents. At first it sends one std out message. Std out means it gives some result into the pipe. Then pipe convey the message to its child, and here the command is std in. Std in means it feeds directly to the child. So that is the method of IPC technique. Okay, so that is the end of my today's class. So today we have discussed first we have discussed about the difference between parallel system and distributed operating system. Secondly, we have seen that there are 6 layer distributed operating system, and then we have discussed about 2 kernel model. First one is called monolithic and the second one is called microlithic, and then we have discussed about the inter-process communication technique.